Hey, Bianca here, and welcome to Teach Like Bianca. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 13 student teaching strategies that will help you get the most out of your student teaching experience. Now, these strategies are not just looking professional, making a good impression, being on time, because you already know all that. These strategies are very focus and in depth on what you should be doing during your student teaching experience, as well as what you should be preparing for in your interview process to get your first classroom, and that will propel you for your very first year of teaching. Let's go ahead and get started. 13 student teaching tips, and maybe a few more for good measure. Number one, get handbooks. When I say get handbooks, get a copy of your building and district handbook. And before you even begin your practicum, and when you find out where you're going to be placed at, you want to make sure that you get a copy of the building, district, and student and staff handbooks and parent handbooks, whatever they have, just so that you can review them and make sure that you're on the same page with everybody else. The second strategy is document your journey. So you want to reflect on your journey, and reflection is the biggest thing that you can do in any sort of journey that you're on. Now, I still have my student teaching journal that I have used since 2009 is when I did my student teaching way back in 2009. And I still open up my journal, look at it, reflect on the growth that I have or my thoughts that I have, especially when there's days where I feel like I'm getting burned out. It's great to reflect on how far you have come. And you know what? Start a YouTube channel, go big with it, really document it because it's very helpful for other people to know what other student teachers are going through at the time. Number three is asking questions. You want to make sure that you are talking with your field experience supervisor, your classroom teacher, you're asking questions, you're getting feedback on lessons, or just asking why are they doing the things that they're doing within the classroom. You always want to make sure that you also look like you're engaged, and this is a great way to do so, but it's just by asking questions. You can also ask your students for feedback as well. These are some of the letters that my students had wrote to me, and this was a high school level, so they had a lot of experience with teachers from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And the students that wrote me this, they were on their way to graduating high school in the next 4 or 5 months because I finished my student teaching experience in December. So this is just a bonus because you want to ask your students because they're honest and they get straight to the point, especially ask those little guys, those, little first graders, those kindergartners. They're going to give you the most honest feedback. And, they may not write it out the way the seniors did, but they're going to give you some honest and straightforward feedback on how you are as a teacher. The next one, number four, is just to keep everything. When I say keep everything, keep all materials, either digital or in hard copies. Ask for extras from your supervising teacher. Get a folder and keep all lesson plans and everything that you have ever done inside of this folder. Now, I have a student teaching binder with all of my lesson plans in it to this day, and I go through it every single summer. Keep everything. Become a hoarder, a classroom hoarder during student teaching. The next part, number five, is just staying mobile, or what I like to call work the room. The reasons why I had to keep a binder with me, a student teaching binder with me, is because I didn't have a desk. And I actually student taught in two classrooms. I was in a US history classroom for two class periods, and then the rest of the day I would be in an English classroom. And so I had to carry all my stuff around with me. I didn't have anywhere to put it. So I just put it in a tote and just stayed mobile all the time. And one of the biggest reasons that you want to stay mobile, it also helps with classroom management, differentiation, and just making sure that your students are on task and knowing what they should be doing at the time that they should be doing it. And number six, and I just briefly talked about this in the last one, but differentiate. Know when to make changes in your lesson plans when you need to, give options and choices. And a lot of new teachers don't understand this quite well. You can make these changes for a whole class or individually, or maybe it's just a group of students like your English language learners or special education students, but learn to be prepared for it almost with every single lesson plan. Example, just a quick example and a simple example is if a student is having trouble answering all 10 questions on a page, just cross out maybe 5 of the questions and have them do half the page, especially if you notice that they are on number 2 while the rest of your class is on number 7. It's more about what you want students to know instead of them just wanting them to finish the worksheet. Just give choices as much as you can. And it could be as simple as having them pick out their own independent reading books, or even just picking out their own partners for a group. And it also kind of works in your favor because sometimes students want to pick their best friend as their partner, which may be not the greatest partner for them, but it's a learning experience. They're going to figure out, yeah, their best friend's not the greatest partner because they might be stuck doing all the work. It's a great way to get buy-in to lessons and keep students engaged and motivated to do what they want to do. Number 7 is looking for teachable moments. And teachable moments can happen at any time. And most commonly, a lot of teachable moments that I have was when there were negative moments, maybe like bullying or fights. Um, things that you see where students are having they notice these things happening and they may have a hard time getting calmed down in the classroom. So you have to take time out of your classroom to kind of do a little bit of restorative practices within your classroom. And this it's a great opportunity for building relationships, a time to reflect and come together and kind of grow together as a classroom to teach them what they should be doing instead of what they shouldn't be doing. Number 8 is student goal setting. If you could find a way within your lesson to have students set their goals and allow them to track their own goals, either daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, even at the end of each semester, have students tracking their own goals is great for engagement and motivation. It also gives your students a visual to see that they are made, if they are or aren't making progress regularly, and give you and your teacher and the student give them other options to try to meet the needs that they should meet if you find that they're not meeting progress. And if your cooperating teacher doesn't have something in place, you could start something. You're most likely going to get kudos for it. And this is something that will be great to bring up during an interview process because once you get your classroom and you are being observed for your professional growth plans, this is something that will easily transfer over that you can bring up in an interview that this is something that you have done and that you have experience with. Number 9 is celebrating diversity. You want to make sure that every student has a voice. And I have a very simple idea that I have done before where I celebrate each culture every single month. September to October, you have Hispanic Heritage Month. October, you have European Heritage Month. November, Native American Heritage Month. You want to find ways to celebrate culture every single month. And I will put the link to the blog post. The next one is being flexible. And when I say be flexible, it doesn't mean that, hey, you got to be flexible like you're doing yoga and gymnastics all the time. But it's more of being open to have change and being available and trying out new things. Students thrive in places where there's flexibility and that and you have to make understand that everything's not set in stone. And one of the worst type of feedback that as a teacher that I sat on interview panels that I have received is teachers they get marked down as being flexible from their reference checks. And that is a very big turnoff for having hiring a teacher. You want a teacher that's flexible. So, for example, if a student needs more time, give them more time. If changes need to be made, allow it. This also works great with collaboration and working within your PLC communities. You don't always have to say yes to everything, but you also don't always have to say no. So, find a good balance where your flexibility helps you not lead, also lead into overwhelm. Number 11, make sure you get students up at least every half an hour. So get students out of their seat at least once, and it could be just something where you tell them to go turn in their assignment in the turn in box or go grab their textbook out of the back of the room. It doesn't have to be something where they're doing an activity, but just something that simple that gets them out of their seat. That's a simple way to do it. Number 12, this one probably needs no introduction, but building relationships, the key to classroom management. You have to build relationships with students so that you have that mutual respect. Especially if you're a student teacher that's coming in like in January and it's not at the beginning of the year where everybody's getting to know each other. But it just takes a couple minutes of talking to students. How you doing today? Before you're starting the lesson, taking the time to learn one personal thing about each one of your students is also very helpful. And in my early substitute teaching days, I would go out and build relationships with students by hanging out with them at recess. So if you're an elementary school teacher, hang out with them at recess, hang out with students at lunch. This is a great way to get to know them on a level that's outside the classroom as well. Number 13, this is our last strategy for student teachers. Leave the lectures to higher education. So make sure you're involving your students to discuss and work together during your lessons as much as you can, because you should be a facilitator in the classroom as students are learning from each other. And always keep that in mind. If you feel like you're talking too much, you want to scale that back and give more opportunity for your students to talk either to each other or to you, are just having some time to really self reflect, even within themselves, on their own work. Now, if you need some extra tips and you need a guide to help you, I have a free student teaching guide that I'm going to link down below. And I also have an ebook that I'll put the link down below for that as well. That's called From Student Teaching to Your Own Classroom, that has a variety of tips in there, over 100 pages of tips. If you have any questions, please feel free to put that in the comment section. If not, thanks for watching. If these student teaching tips were helpful for you, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.